I live in a 75-year-old house in a city known for its water crisis, so I really wanted a whole house water filter that made me feel confident about the water flowing through the pipes in my house. I was really happy when SimPure reached out and sent me this 3-stage whole house water filter for free so I could try it out. I love that it has the pre-filter, the KDF filter, and the CTO filter. It filters out things like sediments, heavy metals, chlorine, taste, odors, etc. I also noticed that a lot of people had questions about how to install this thing, how difficult it was, how involved it is. I want to go ahead and show you the entire process. So for this video, I want to show you everything that you need to know to get this installed from start to finish. That includes things like placement considerations, plumbing fittings and tools you'll need to have, and then you'll watch me install it myself from beginning to end to help walk you through every single step to make it easy for you. So if you only want to see the install portion, feel free to jump ahead to see me do the full install from start to finish. For placement consideration, the number one thing that you need to consider is where your water lines run into your house. So the water from your city, where it runs into your house, because you have to be close to your inlet, because you want to make sure that you're able to tie into your water filter before you branch off into anything in your house. But you also want to make sure that your water filter is placed after any pressure tanks. So if you have those things, you'll have to consider that. I don't have any of that. So for me, I wanted to be as close as possible to the main water line flowing into my house because I wanted to reduce the amount of extra parts that I needed. So I installed it really close to my water inlet. I needed to be close to it because my water starts to branch off into different areas of my house very quickly. So if I didn't get it installed really close to the main water flowing into my house, I wouldn't be able to filter everything that goes through my entire plumbing system. So I needed to be close. So that's the number one thing you want to consider. And then you also want to consider how much space you have. This wasn't necessarily my number one choice to mount it on this wall here, but I didn't want it on the floor and I didn't want it, really anywhere else. This was, for me, the optimal spot. You want to make sure to put it in a spot where you can always access these cartridges so they're easy to change your filter. And you also want to be able to access it for easy maintenance in case you ever get leaks or things like that. Next, tools to have on hand. Now, this will vary slightly depending on your plumbing system. I have, again, an old house. I have copper plumbing. You might have CPVC or PEX plumbing. A lot of the things will be the same, but there might be some slight variations. My list will be based on having a copper plumbing system. You'll definitely want to have a good pipe wrench and or channel locks to tighten up your fittings. You'll want a pipe cutter and deburring tool. For copper, you'll need something like a very fine sandpaper. I use Scotch-Brite just to clean the ends of the copper off before I connected the fittings back together. And then you'll need a drill or screwdriver. Recommend having both Phillips and flat on hand. Now, for things to buy, you're going to need 2 1-inch connectors, one for your inlet and one for your outlet. Then you'll need 2 connectors to come off of those, again for the inlet and outlet. I used a 1-inch threaded to a 3/4 inch stainless steel braided hot water push connect. You don't necessarily have to use the exact pieces that I use. You can use other fittings and pieces of pipe to connect into your line if that's more convenient for you. But for me, this was the easiest way to go. And then because I have a copper system and an older house, I needed to buy some grounding wire and some grounding clamps because that's part of my electrical grounding system. So by cutting into the pipe to install this water filter, I broke that connection and I need to tie it back in. And you'll see that later in the install video too. If you don't have the copper system, most likely you won't need to worry about that piece of it. All in, I spent around $100 in extra pieces to get this installed. And now I'm ready to walk you through step by step the entire installation process. So let's get started now. It is a really nice heavy duty filter, nice metal frame, it's solid. Here's the filter remove tool, level guide here, manual, wrench to tighten and loosen the canisters, hardware packet with Teflon tape and some anchors, and then your 3 gauges. So finally made it down here to my basement, ready to install this thing. First thing that you'll need is a couple of 1-inch nipples to go into the inlet and outlet. You're also going to need 2 of these push connects. This end will screw onto the other side of the 1-inch nipple, and then this side is the push connect. I'm going to get in really close and show you everything right now. We'll take one of the 1-inch nipples, grab some Teflon, and you want to wrap it around. So you can see we have both of them done now. The next step is to screw into the inlet and the outlet side. So you want to tighten it, but you don't want to over tighten it because you absolutely do not want to strip out the threads in your water filter. All right, now that we have that done, we want to take our push connect fittings here. So I told you the ones that I have, we have the 1-inch threads on one end, and this goes down to 3/4 because I have 3/4 inch pipes. So this side will connect to my pipes. So right now, what we have is the outlet side. Now that we have our inlet and outlets prepped on our system, we need to go ahead and finish the prep by taking off each one of these filter housings. The filters inside of all of them have plastic or wrapping on them. You want to grab the tool, you get it in place, and then you unscrew it. So here we are up close. So I got the first one off. The end of the filter has these rubber gaskets. You want to make sure those are laying flat on both ends. Push those flat, grab your housing. You also want to make sure that all of these rings are in place. Also want to point out, it does matter which direction you put these. I just realized that, so I'm going to check the first one again. This side, it says up. That means face it up. You can see the bottom side looks different. So all right, now that we have them all on, I want to just go back through and make sure they're all tight. So now the last step for our filter prep is to grab all the gauges out of the white boxes and put them up top in the quick connects. Right here in this spot is where I want to mount it. So I don't want to screw into my block wall. I want to take a piece of 2x and I'm going to span it across and then mount it all the way up as high as I can, just in case I ever do actually get a toilet put down in this spot. I don't want it to be in the way. That's where I'm going to start. Now before you start cutting in any pipes in your house, you want to make sure you go ahead and find your whole house water shutoff and tighten it. Then I suggest you go and turn on the lowest faucet in your house to relieve a little bit of pressure, because whenever you cut into the pipes, they are going to leak some anyway. Go run some water, relieves pressure from the system. And then I'm going to cut the pipe right in here for my inlet into the water line. So I'll remove that whole section and then I'll mount a cross board across there. All right, so next thing that I need to do, remove this old shark bite that I had, because that's the outlet that I'm going to connect back into. So I won't need that anymore. So I'll get rid of that. All right, now that I got my mounting board installed, it's time to go ahead and grab the actual mounting template, and I'm gonna stick it up here and then use the 2 screws that they provided to actually hang the whole house filter. So there's a little bit closer look at the sticker, and then I'll zoom in some more. You can see that hole there is for a screw hole. That's your pipeline level. And then there's for your other screw hole. Go ahead and take the screws that they provided and drive those in. Okay, so now I'm gonna pick up the whole unit itself and see if I can get it to mount on these screws. If I got everything lined up properly, it should hang there pretty easily. So there it is, mounted on the wall. Now I can give you a little bit closer look so you can see my top pipe up there. It goes over top of the unit. That's okay because that's why I got these braided stainless steel lines, because now I can just take and wrap that up, and I'm going to connect it right into that pipe there. And this one will connect right there. Make sure that you have all your copper and everything cleaned like I did. And since we're here, I'm going to go ahead and lock this one in. Okay, so that's in there. And I'll do the same thing with the one up there. I think I'll probably have a bit of a hard time showing you, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that one. I'll say here's the full thing plumbed now. You can see I actually did have to end up connecting or putting another little piece of connector there at the end because I left me too short once I moved it over. So there's my inlet. I'll show you right there. So coming off my water, my main water line, to the inlet, and it goes through 3 filters, comes out of that pipe as the outlet, and then goes to my whole house. All right, so it's installed, but we still have one more thing to do. Grounding wire and grounding clamps. We're getting ready to install those, and I'm going to show you exactly what I'm doing with it. So this is the water inlet into my house. Now, do you see that clamp we have there? So we have this clamp here, and you see that piece of wire. It's old, but that's just a bare copper. And then it connects up here after the meter. The point of that is for your electrical grounding system. So the reason they put that jumper here from the city is because we have this box in the middle. So that separates it. So we needed that jumper. It's called a jumper wire because it continues the ground, because having that box there breaks it. When we installed our whole house filter, we essentially did the same thing. We disconnected that ground from the main plumbing system and interrupted it with our unit here. So we have to do the same thing. We're going to add another jumper from right there where I clean the copper and connect it right there to that clean copper. That will connect the entire grounding system again, just like they did previously. An up close look here. So this spot right here will clamp to the pipe. Our copper wire will go through here. So I'll try to show you that as best as I can. It's hard to keep the camera in focus. Hey, so sorry about that. Didn't realize that my camera ran out of memory space, so it quit recording in the middle of me installing the ground wire. So close-up look at what we have for the ground. I'm finishing it up on my phone, so hopefully you can hear now. Ran the wire up in there, tightened it, ran it all the way back here, and then clamped that onto my pipe and tightened that down. So that's the system. So now the only thing left to do is to turn the water back on and check for leaks and fix them if I have any. So we're going to do it slowly. All right, so water is fully on. I can see the pressure gauges up top starting to change, so that's good. I hear the water all flowing through my pipes. I'm not seeing any leaks at any of the connections here. The only thing I have left that I do want to check is the water pressure to make sure I still have good pressure at my faucets. All right, and here I am at my sink now. First time turning it on. So it did get a lot of air in the lines, which of course is normal, so it'll probably take a little while for that to come out. The last step that you need to do when you finish yours is to let your water run for about 10 minutes or so. You want to get all of the carbon and everything flushed through on the filter. So let that run and then let it sit for about an hour and then run it for another at least 10 minutes. Longer is better. But that's it, everyone. That's our install.